It is I, RPG's living incarnation of Nintendo's pro wrestling, here to devour power gamers like the Amazon and stupefy your soul to immersive heights like Starman, your stunning main man, coming back one more time. D&D, Read the Hat, Monster Ecology. I'm turning my hands inward, and we know we're talking about Gully Dwarf, the foul, filthy, loathsome, despicable Anghar clan of dwarves, of gnomes, of mixed polluted blood, of loathsome indigent sewer dwellers, ghetto-infested, lice-having, smelly, cowardly, begging and pleading, begging off, but not like Ric Flair, the cowardly ones themselves, from the Dragonlance setting, Gully Dwarves. I've only ever seen one Gully Dwarf ever played. I must have been maybe 16, maybe 15 at the time. The guy's name was Eric Tarkus. I have told the story more than one time on this channel. For those of you who have not heard that, the guy was an abomination of an RPG player. However, with my nephew there, he was the guy would come around and they said, "All right, fine, Eric Tarkus, you can play D&D. What are you going to play?" And he picks the Gully Dwarf. And he picks a wizard, whatever. And, of course, he eventually gets to say he was just a filthy derelict. And this guy in real life was a Gully Dwarf. I'll tell you that right now. And he took those hands, as he finally began to not enjoy the character, I suppose. He would do ridiculous random things, like having sex with trees. And then he took that magic missile, and he took those hands, and he did this, and exactly like this. He goes, "I turn my hands inward." Boom! And he magic missile himself in the mouth for a D4 plus 1 points of damage. Of course, that is not going to do anything but drop you to the ground. But the Gully Dwarfs, that Gully Dwarf laid unconscious for about an hour and a half before he woke up and continued on, unable to even kill himself. And that is the sort of lack of competency that exemplifies Gully Dwarfs, only being able to count, not even a full hand, using and living around rats and other sorts of vermin. They themselves are sort of sapient vermin, and they really fill that niche at the very bottom, a bottom dweller. They're going to smell bad. They're going to live in poverty. They're going to have stew of unusual and unknowable ingredients you won't want to invite into your body. Eat not the food of Gully Dwarfs. Know that they are of dwarf and gnome mixed blood. And we know how we feel about that right here, Barbarian Horde. Now, I got the D&D hat on from Black Bar. Check out Black Bar channel. And what you're thinking about the Gully Dwarfs, I certainly do not think that they have much value in the terms of player character. Certainly, the fact that they'll beg off, they have certain powers in different editions where they can actually sort of like make you make saving throws so you can't attack them because they become so unbelievably pitiful that you're like, oh, just get out of here, man. Maybe you throw them a beating and throw them right on out to the main thoroughfare, to the mud and the muck, to the ruin and rumination of the face down in the sewage of horses and such droppings in the mud. Gully Dwarfs are a foul, abominable sort of little creature. And generally, they're sort of things that perform these menial jobs. You can have them in a Dragonlance setting in the background, cleaning up as maybe stable hands or doing sewage sort of work, this sort of thing. But in the hands of player characters, I think they sort of, for a long-term campaign, I think they might be a bit too silly, and they might be a bit of a problem in terms of allowing the player to really do much in there. Still, the creatures themselves do have a lot of survival instinct, much like the cockroach, and I think that there's a lot of that sort of mindset put behind them, you know, or like a rat. They're going to viciously come at you when they're pushed to that point. I don't know how far from wretched, pathetic little creatures you could really push a Gully Dwarf while still being a Gully Dwarf. You can always, you know, do anything you want to do. Like, I'm a Gully Dwarf who's this badass, and it gets kind of like, really? So, overall, I doubt Gully Dwarfs have seen a tremendous amount of play. If you out there in the Barbarian Horde have ever seen someone playing a Gully Dwarf or played a Gully Dwarf, leave your comment below here. And tell us about these creatures that are, again, half are partially dwarven, of some gnomish blood. They speak their own foul, guttural language. They consort with rats in the Dragonlance books. I think it was Bopu, and the name of the one. And they go around and they show you the Gully Dwarf stuff. They even have a whole Dragonlance novel about Gully Dwarfs. For those of you who haven't seen that, maybe I'll throw up the picture here in the beginning. If I did, you will see it. But there's also the AD&D 2nd edition dwarf book, the old maroon joint. Gully Dwarfs are one of the races. The Gully Dwarfs, the Sunder Dwarves, the Hill Dwarfs, Mountain Dwarfs, Gray Dwarves, I think, Durger or something like that in there. And the guy just sitting there picking out the bones, and he's all filthy. And you can see he probably clearly has lice and mites. And, you know, who knows, roaches living on him. Who knows what he had living on him. But it's certainly a foul, loathsome derelict, sort of a species, sort of a creature. And overall, there's really not a whole lot you could do with a Gully Dwarf as a character. The Dragonlance setting was known to be, at times, a bit absurd, a bit silly, a bit ridiculous. And to me, the Gully Dwarf falls well into that, along with his companion, the Kinder, who we have talked about previously in a video that you guys could check out. I think it's called D&D, The Worst Race. And that is, of course, the Kinder, who is known for all sorts of hijinks and problems and being problematic as a player character. But we're talking about the Gully Dwarf, who fortunately has seen, in my view, only one time as a player character. So as you out there in the Barbarian Horde, and you people in the streets, ba-ba-bing, ba-boom, you know now about the Gully Dwarf, about RPGs, about Dungeons and Dragons, about monster ecology, and everyone out there in the community should also feel free to leave the monsters below, as always, that you want to see ecologized. We shall see and select over and over again, talking about monsters and monsters and monsters. I know you guys enjoy hearing about those as well. Your thoughts. Gully Dwarf as a player, is it playable? Not to say is it playable, but yeah, I mean, is it really playable? Is it something you're going to go 50 game sessions in a row and be like, yeah, a Gully Dwarf, a Gully Dwarf. Fuck yeah. Let your main man know below. And check out my new Twitter account. Just got roped into making one of those deals. Your main man _RPG. Some other perpetrator had the name Your Main Man. Who knows what sort of a mental derelict this fiendish thief is, but Your Main Man _RPG. Follow me on Twitter. Get your copies of Within the Ring of Fire. Check out Drive-Thru RPG. Hit me direct. You can direct message me on Twitter. You can join me on Facebook, Main Man. And you can get your copies of Within the Ring of Fire or PDF directly from me. You can get your copies from Drive-Thru RPG, of Within the Ring of Fire Saga Book, Within the Ring of Fire Feywild, Within the Ring of Fire 77 Throws, a Theological Codex. Bring immersion to your players. Give them the best goddamn game you're possible to run. And you can do that right there as a stoke the fires of imagination and Kavega Thale. Woo, my God!